Hiya, Elise here, and today I'm back with another plan with me. This one is for March, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about a new spread that I'm trying to help me stay extra organised. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about the productivity tracker that I've been using, and I also wanted to talk about how a simple pen has encouraged me to be more consistent with my planning. I had so much trouble trying to come up with a theme for this month. It got like nearly to the very end, and I was like, I just don't know what to do. And I'd seen these sort of florally, flowery ones quite a few times before with other bullet journalers and things, and I've never managed to make them look good. I just haven't been able to make it look sort of put together the way that other people do. Um, but I think this has turned out pretty good. I've sort of found a way around it. So I'm going to explain to you what I did to make it look a little bit better. And I'm also going to talk you through step by step how I draw some of these flowers, because when I did the bumblebees, it was received quite well. And a lot of you said it was really helpful. So I thought I'd go through that again in this video. This whole spread is actually super simple to create once you know how to doodle these flowers. I've only got about 3 or 4 different shaped flowers in this spread, and I just draw the same ones over and over. And if you vary the shape and size of the petals, you can make it look really intricate and detailed. There's also a really nifty trick to creating that sort of detailed, intricate look to give the flowers a little more something, something. I can't pull that off. I've never said that in my life. Something, something. Yeah, so I'll show you the little trick. It's really, really simple. And then hopefully your flowers will look nice and pretty and beautiful. So now we're on to my main monthly overview. Monthly overview. Onto my main monthly overview spread. I've got my main traditional calendar in the centre, and I have another one running down the side. And you might think it's weird having two of the same calendars, but there's 2 reasons that I do this. Firstly, because I like to have a traditional monthly calendar. My brain just seems to appreciate this kind of layout. But I also like having the vertical because it gives me more space to write in appointments or events. The other reason I like having 2 calendars is because I can separate their uses. I've been using the vertical for important dates and events and stuff, and then the traditional calendar view to mark in project dates. I've got a new spread this month for projects. So instead, I'm going to use the traditional calendar to mark in like bills and payments and stuff. On the left, I have my different categories that give me a quick snapshot of the month. And someone asked me, why do I track the low point? And there's a few reasons. Number one, I think it's a good idea to have a balance between good and bad. I don't think we should deny or ignore the difficult parts or times in life, because those are the times that encourage you to strive for change and improvement. But also, once those difficult times have been overcome, you can look back at it with a sense of pride, knowing that you're a capable person and that you can get through tough times. Another reason is that if I find that the low points tend to revolve around a certain person or situation, it can highlight things that need to be changed, whereas I might have overlooked these things had I not tracked them because, on a day-to-day basis, you don't really take a huge amount of notice of that sort of thing. Well, I don't anyway. So it's much easier to look back on things with hindsight and be able to see things a little more clearly once the worst has passed. So it's good to be able to look back on things with a clearer mind so that if there is a repeat, you're better equipped to deal with it. I'm sorry about my head bumping in and out of shot. I don't know how people do it when they're filming and they don't get their head in shot, because I have to get quite close to the page to get the details. I don't know if it's my eyesight or what, but it has reminded me that I need to get my roots done. They need doing. And also, I sort of move my head with the sort of movement of the pen. It's a bit weird. Look at that go, meow. Yeah, next page. So for this spread, I've got my project time management page and my tasks page. The project time management spread is inspired by the Boosted Journal. He's brilliant. He's also how I found the productivity level tracker. If you haven't checked him out, you should. He's great. I'll link him in the description. But basically, I've got the vertical columns one for the project and the others are for the different weeks in the month. And I'm going to write the deadline for the projects in the appropriate week, and then any mini tasks that need to be done that have anything to do with that project, I can cluster them or space them out through the previous weeks to make sure everything gets done in time. I haven't really explained that very well because it's difficult to show you how without sort of filling it in, but the boosted journal has a video on it, so you can check that out if you're interested, and maybe I'll explain it a bit better in a future video once I've actually filled it out. The tasks page I made out of necessity because so far I've been writing in my tasks all over the place through my weeklies and on the main monthly spread, and I kept losing track of what still needed to be done or what I needed to finish. So now I have them all in one place. I've given myself a progress bar for each task because sometimes I start a task but don't have time to finish it right then and there. So it's nice to see how much more I need to do for a certain task, because then it gives me an idea of how to prioritize it, or whether or not I can fit it in a particular time slot. I've also got a symbol bar running down the side to help me batch task, which is something I've been doing in my weeklies so that I can be more efficient with getting things done, and it's working really well. So if you want to know more about how I do that, let me know and maybe I can go into more detail about it in the next video. This page is for my productivity tracker. I won't go into the ins and outs of how it works and how to use it in this video because I have got a video where I go into more detail about it and I do a demonstration of how it works. So I'll link that video in the description for you if you want to know more about it. Today I wanted to talk about why I'm using it. I've been doing it for about 3 months now, and I sort of lost sight of what it's actually for. It just became something that I just fill out for the sake of it. But there are several benefits to using it, and I'm focusing more on those things now. One, simply for tracking things that you don't need to do very often, so it works as a good when did I last kind of spread. But also for me, I tend to track things that I feel has been an achievement, whether it's big or small. Like if I got lots of emails done, or if I spent extra time with the kids, or just getting the dishes done. Some days, with having a chronic illness, it really doesn't feel like I've been particularly productive and I get a bit down on myself. But with this spread, I can actually see that I am getting stuff done, even if it doesn't seem like something big or significant to somebody else. Sometimes it's significant to me because I know how hard it was to achieve, depending on how my illness was affecting me that day. I can also use some of my other trackers in correlation with this spread, so it helps me get extra insight into my life and what and where and how I can improve either my quality of life, my efficiency, or something to let me know that, okay, Elise, you've gotten into a slump and you need to get out of it. For me, if I'm getting a lot less done consistently, it's a good prior warning that I'm falling into a slump or even a depression. So it raises my awareness of what's going on within myself on several levels. Next up is my everything tracker. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this one because I've covered it many times in previous videos, and I do actually have a video dedicated to how I use my trackers, so you can check that out if you want. All I'm going to say about this today is that I find it really, really helpful to track helpful helpful to track health stuff. Helpful to track health stuff, and anything that might be causing problems or helping them. On the left, I have space to write in anything that might be relevant to any particular day, so that really helps when I go back and analyse all this information at the end of the month. And overall, I just really love this spread. I find it really helpful. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Next up, I have my habit building tracker. At the moment, I'm really giving myself a break. I know at the minute I need one. I've been too hard on myself. My body seems to be sort of giving up on me a little bit, and I'm trying to be kinder to myself. And at the minute, that means not pressuring myself to be superwoman. So I'm not putting loads of pressure on myself to do all these things consistently, but it does act as a good reminder of what I'm aiming for in the long run. And also, if I'm at a loss for what to do and I have time and energy, I can quickly nip to this page and get some inspiration for something to do that I know is going to be a good use of my time. And if I do get to fill something in, it's a super bonus at the moment, so it still feels really good to actually fill it in. Next is my feelings page, where I write a few words about how I'm feeling. Even though I track my mood in a bar graph style on my everything tracker, sometimes I like to put a name to the actual feeling, because it gives me more insight in the long run when I look back on things. Plus, sometimes it just feels good to actually get things down on paper so that it's not bubbling around in my head. I suppose it's a bit like having a diary, but it's just much more low maintenance. The next few spreads you've seen me set up loads of times, and if you haven't, you can check out the last couple of videos because it's exactly the same. So instead, I'm going to hand you over to the normal me talking rather than the voiceover, and explain about some of the pens, the two pens that I use the most, because I get lots of comments about my favourite pens and stuff. So yeah, here it is.
Okay, so I just wanted to quickly sort of tell you about my most favourite pen that I use all the time. I have mentioned it before, but I feel like it's worth another mention because it really has encouraged me to use my journal every single day, because with me being a little bit of a perfectionist, if I got something wrong, it's like, oh, this spread's ruined, I don't want to touch it anymore, and just that sort of mindset. So you can see here like a lot of I wasn't very consistent. You can see here not a lot of consistency. I didn't end up filling this one out. Also this weekly spread I haven't really filled out, just because, you know, if I got something wrong, or I just didn't have a love of it, because it was stressful for me thinking I might do something wrong and I wouldn't be able to fix it. So I sort of stepped back a little bit from the bullet journal because I didn't want to ruin it. But that's not what the bullet journal is for. So I just happened to come across the pen that you can rub out, which is this one here. It's a Pilot friction pen, and you can rub it out. This is the good thing about it, and I just wanted to show you how consistent I was. I've filled in, and continue to be, I've filled in all my dailies in November. Was this November? October. I've also filled them all out in November. It was the same for December. I haven't got that book with me, but even January, and also on to February I've been consistent too. It's something about this pen being able to, you know, rub things out if I've got it wrong or change it and that sort of thing. The other thing is my other favourite pen to do my spreads, which you'll see me doing throughout this video. I use the Arteza fine liner. Now I've had these for quite a long time, and the nib, as you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but it's still really like, it's out there. Like sometimes with the Unipin, not the Unipin, what is it? Ah, it's this one with the Stedler, is it Stedler? Stedler. I really like these because they don't smudge, but I'm quite heavy-handed and the nib always ends up being pressed down, and I've got quite a few of these that I can't actually use anymore because they just scratch the page and the ink doesn't come out. But I've had these for ages now, and it's still going really strong. Also, the ink is really black and the line comes out really smooth. You don't get that sort of feathering that you sometimes get on the pages and stuff. And this one, it's that sort of triangle shaped barrel, which for me is fantastic because nothing in my house or my office is even. So I put it down and stuff rolls away and then I'm like, where did my pen go? But this one, it's because of the shape of it, it doesn't roll away. And I actually find this one easier to hold because I've got this stupid weird little lump thing. I don't know what that is. What is it? So I've got this stupid lump, and it doesn't sort of rub on it because it sits flat. So I really like this one. The other thing is, if I fill out my my trackers and stuff and I want to rub stuff out, because I've used this pen, I can really go for it and I can just rub without worrying about the rest of the spread disappearing. So yeah, these two The Arteza, I love this pen. I really, really do. It's fantastic. It smudges ever so slightly with my Tombos, but it's barely noticeable, and I'm quite picky about that sort of thing. So I really, really like this one. You've probably seen me use it in, all of my last lot of videos because I enjoy it so much. But also the Pilot Friction pen, I love as well. The only thing about this one is people have said if you put it near heat, it disappears. Now I've had my planner on the radiator by accident a few times and it hasn't disappeared. Everything is still all there. But I've also heard that if you do lose the writing, then you can put it in the freezer and it comes back. But to be honest, I would rather just be really careful about where I'm putting my planner and not leaving it anywhere too hot, and be able to use this pen because it's just made such a huge difference in my planning. And I enjoy planning now. I enjoy doing all that sort of stuff because if I make a mistake, I can rub it out. So yeah, that was the only things I wanted to say about these pens. I love them, and hopefully you'll love them too. I'll leave links to them in the description. But yeah, these are definitely my go-to pens.
Also, I wanted to mention that the Arteza pen does not go anywhere when you use a ruler with it. It just does not smudge, so that's a bonus too.
So there you go.
So now I wanted to get into the fun bit where I show you how to draw these flowers. So I tend to start with a circle. I didn't do it all the way through the spread because I got used to doing it, but I started with the biggest circle and then the smaller circle in the center. Then I'm sectioning off this circle to sort of show me where the different leaves are going to go. Then I'm getting my pen and I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw this sort of, it's best to start with the center and do a sort of wobbly, bubbly thing in the center. I'm really rubbish at explaining how I do these, but bear with me. And then I'm going to put a petal where each line is and then fill in the gaps between. This isn't the best one to show you actually because my hand is right in the way, so you can't really see it. But when I pull away, you'll be able to see. So I started with putting those petals, shut up phone, on the lines and then filling the petals in the back. And then I'm going to get my fine liner pen. So this is the best bit. I go in with a much, much finer nib. And this gives all those little details. And for some reason, it just makes things look so much more cohesive and elegant and put together, just by switching the size of the nib. I don't know why it works, it just does. It just looks better. It's a bit hard to see on this flower because it's so small, but as I get to the bigger flowers you'll see. But I'm just sort of darkening the center of the flower after I've put some of those little circles in. And then to vary it, you can go straight from the center and draw out those petals and change the shape of the petals, so you can have ones with sort of pointy edges and ones with more rounded edges. And then again I go in with my fine liner and put those smaller details in, and I'm adding a few little bits on the petals, on the edges of the petals, and for where I put the leaves in. Now I'm going to go over to a larger flower. Luckily this one will be easier for you to see. So I start with that little, I've got my two pencil lines and I start with that bumpy center, and then with these petals I'm coming out and I'm doing a sort of bump and a point and then a bump again. You can see it sort of, and I'm varying it a little. I'm not being too fancy or, I'm not stressing myself out about making it perfect. I'm just bumping and pointing wherever I fancy. If you want to use those lines again to sort of show you where the petals are going to go, that can be really, really helpful. Like I say, I haven't needed to so much because I've got so used to drawing them. But here you can see I'm just drawing different petal shapes, thinner and thicker and more and less, just so that you can see a variation. And they're not neat. You can tell they're not neat. And by themselves like this, they would look kind of crappy. But once you go in with that fine pen like this and you put these little details in, I always try and darken the bit closest to the center, because it just looks better. I suppose it's because of the light and shade and contrast and that sort of thing, if you want to get all arty about it. But yeah, and then a few little marks around the edges of the petals just to give a little bit more detail and interest. And see, I don't know if you can see the difference, but just going from that plain flower to then adding the extra details in I think it makes a really big difference. And just because I'm using a much finer nib point, So then I'm going in again with some more different sort of petal shapes. I'm doing the main petals first, and then I go back in through the back to fill out all the gaps. And then for the center of this one, rather than doing the little circles, I'm just going to go in with that really tiny fine liner, and I'm just going to dot the center. And if you dot them closer together around the edge, it can have a different effect again, but you can sort of play around with it. And then I'm just adding those details again to those petals, and it really makes the flower pop and have just more interest, and it's just nicer to look at. Hopefully you can see I've got a few pencil lines in there, and what I did is I drew all the circles beforehand so that I would know where I wanted to place the flowers, so that it just felt more put together rather than just dotting them anywhere. I did sketch it out first, but not the whole detailed flowers, just the circles, the base shapes, just to give me an idea of how it would look in the end. And that helps you place the flowers. And then here you can see I'm trying a different petal shape again, but I'm following that same method with doing the inner circle, and then I'm following the lines of the outer circle to get the shape of the roundness, the roundness of the flower. And then again with the fine liner in a minute with the fine liner afterwards, to give it that detail again. And I just repeat this process over and over and over again, and you can play about with it and change things. And even if you're doing things like, I just start squiggling just start squiggling with this one, because you don't have to be really careful about where you're putting the lines. Obviously you could do, and you could probably come out with something that looks even more put together and neater, but I don't mind that sort of slightly rough looking aspect to it, because flowers aren't always perfect. um, so yeah, and then I just repeat the process. Hopefully you can sort of understand what I've done. If I haven't explained it very well, hopefully you can just see what I'm doing and work it out. But yeah, that's about it, and I just do that over and over and over again. And now finally we are onto my weekly setup. I've been keeping this the same for the most part just because it's working really well for me. I've got just enough space. I don't feel like I'm wasting a lot of space every week, because sometimes Blech. I used to give myself way too much space because I was quite optimistic about how much I'd get done. But now I'm just giving myself a few spaces for each day, and I'm combining the weekends because it just really bothers me that it's not symmetrical, with the 3 on one side or 4 on the other, or vice versa. So I combine the weekends now so I can just have 6 equal spaces. Then I've got my bar at the top, to give me, I put my main events in this top bar. Somebody asked what I used it for, and it's because I put my very main events in the top so that I know those are the most important things. And then I've got a space for notes, any work tasks or home tasks that I want to get done that week, and I can pull those tasks from my main task list, when I work out which week I want to actually complete them on. And then I've got my mini calendar in the top left hand side, and I highlight the week that I'm in because I like to be able to see the progress through the weeks so I know how much time I've got left in the month. And that's about it. The only other thing I wanted to mention in this video is, last month I got a comment about my videos being too long and being too chatty, and I completely understand that it's just not some people's styles, and I probably do your heads in sometimes. But if you press the little 3 dots in the top corner, on your YouTube screen, you can actually speed up the video and then just put me on mute. And then you don't have to listen to me gibbering, and you can still watch the video much quicker. So yeah, that's it. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I really hope to see you next time.